Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Around the Town with Chuck. My name is Chuck Guglielmo. It is a weekly interview show where we talk with interesting people in the community. And we are taping this show on Monday, August the 28th. And with me from the Star Beacon, fantastic sports writer, Mike Shaffer. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And got Mike here to talk a little bit about high school football and mainly more so about my favorite, the Cleveland Indians. And I know it's one of your favorites as well.
Yes, it is.
Well, let's start with high school football first, Mike.
Okay.
You were the lucky one this past weekend because you got to cover two games that involved county teams, which a lot of us would like to see more of.
Yes.
What is that feeling like? What do you get when you cover a game with the county teams?
Let me tell you about a basketball game I covered last year. Lakeside at Edgewood. Let me just tell you where I had to park.
That kind of explains where you're coming from.
Exactly. And that's just what we need. And I can't, nobody has told me anything. Nobody's told me anything on the record or off the record, but I have had some coaches, Chip Sorber, Frank Hall, Kenny Priest at Edgewood, tell me there are some things in the works, and there's at least some conversations being had. I can't say too much because again, I don't know too much, but there is some talk out there about getting some Ashtabula County schools, maybe some Lake County schools and Geauga County schools, and put them in something. And it's just something we really need. There's a lot of, you're right, there's a lot of fun. Grand Valley and Jefferson, they do that every year where they get to play each other. And of course, with Jim Henson and his playing for his father there and then coaching against them. And then Lakeside and Edgewood, the Battle of the Bridge. We just need so much more of that. And it doesn't make any sense to have Lakeside and Edgewood playing Poland Seminary and playing Warren Howland. There's nobody travels to those games. There's no big rivalries there.
Football's not so bad because it's a Friday night, but when you get into those sports that play on Tuesdays and Thursdays and that kind of stuff, that's where it becomes a problem.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And you just got the whole neighborhood thing.
Well, the Mustangs-Falcons game that you covered, Hernandez picked up right where he left off.
Oh my goodness!
What do you have? Almost 300 yards.
220 rushing. He also had flung him a screen pass that he went 47 yards on. The play of the night, I'm sure you read about it, was early in the third quarter. Grand Valley had the ball at their own 12. And Michael McGovern was in the shotgun, and the center didn't get the snap count right. He wasn't ready for it. The ball went off his leg. There's a scramble for the football. Hernandez picks it up, starts cutting out to the right side, gets a little opening, and 88 instead of first and goal Jefferson, 88 yards away. That was just that was a deal breaker.
Well, he is everything that's advertised.
Yeah, he really is. I wanted to ask Jimmy Henson, do you feel like that's payback for 3 years of having Jeremiah Boogie Knight on your team? Now you're watching. But yeah, he's going to be, he had 4 touchdowns. He's going to be a lot of fun. He's a heck of a weapon, incredibly fast. Once you get him in some space, he's going to be a lot of fun to watch this year. And of course, I asked John Glavickas about him, and Glavickas said last year was really his coming out season as a running back rather than just a speed guy. He's the complete package this year, and we saw a little bit of that Friday night. He could catch the ball, and of course, get him in space and look out. So
that being such a big game, it was kind of nice that it was isolated and put on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
From some of the other games.
It was nice. And they had a good crowd, and that's just kind of like what we talked about. They had both sides of the bleachers were filled up, and you got that family history there with the Henson family, going back. Of course, Jim, I wrote a story about Coach Jim Henson, who played for his father, was the quarterback for Grand Valley. Now, his son, J.J. Henson, is his dad's coach at Jefferson. So that made for a nice little story. And Jefferson did some things well, too. Of course, you're not going to replace Jeremiah Knight, the county's all-time leading rusher, 2,200 yards or something like that, I think he had last year. You're not going to replace that. Clay Smock ran the ball pretty well. Zach Bean, J.J. Henson and Zach Bean hooked up for about 5 or 6 completions, including an 80-yard touchdown pass in the fourth quarter. So they're going to be able to do some things. And Jim Henson, if you know anything about him, he's just got too much pride. He's gonna take it on himself, and they're gonna get that thing together, and they're gonna be heard from before the end of the season.
Do you see Valley as the class of the county?
So far, and of course it's only week one,
right.
but I really like what Glavicus said, and you folks out here in Conneaut, you fall into the same boat, even though you're not quite where Grand Valley is. They're kind of where everybody wants to get right now, and they want to get, they've been to the state playoffs the last 2 years, I think it was. Yeah, they've not won a game yet. I think last year they lost to Black River or something like 40-21 or something, something in that neighborhood. But they want to get to the playoffs, and they want to win a game, obviously. But what Glavicus talked about, and it's the same thing out here with Rocco Dobrin, I'm sorry. It's not just a good team, it's a good program. And you talk about Grand Valley, they have lost their share of players over the years, and they keep coming back. And that's a little bit of what you have here in Conneaut too. You lose players, but you still come back and find a way to manage to win 5, 6, 7 games and kind of knocking on that door to get to week 11.
We hope. Is the Falcons, would you consider the Falcons kind of like in a rebuild? I know they lost Knight, but...
Yeah, that's tough to say because they're a good
They put
program.
20 points on the board.
Yeah, and they're good. And let's face it, they were playing a very good football team. And I mean, yeah, it's high school football. You're always going to have, they lost Jeremiah Knight. They also lost Brevin White. They've lost guys like Lucas Hitchcock over the last few years. Austin Norris. They've had some really good linemen that they lost. But at the same time, J.J. Henson's in his second year. They got Zach Bean back. Clay Smock has some experience running the football back last year. So the cupboard's not bare. So I'm not sure if I call it a rebuild or not. But we'll see.
The other two teams you got a chance to see were the Dragons and the Warriors over at Corlew Stadium. New lights were shining brightly upon them.
Yeah, looked.
Unfortunately, though, the team didn't perform that brightly, right? What did you see in that game?
Well, I'll tell you. You look at the teams in Ashtabula County, and as you mentioned, Grand Valley is obviously, they're obviously the class program with the county right now. Until somebody else is playing in week 11 and winning postseason games, Grand Valley is the top team. Then you got Jefferson and Conneaut kind of right there trying to knock on that door. Out west, Edgewood, Lakeside, St. John, Geneva. Those are all programs that are trying to turn the corner. And I got to spend some time with Frank Hall this year. Frank Hall wrote their preview. They're coming off a 1-9 season. I got to do a real nice feature on Spencer. Not nice because of me, nice because of how much he was willing to share with me about himself and about what football means to him. But they're a team that's trying to show that they're better than a 1-9 team. They got a big game this week with Madison, who won a big game against Geneva this past Friday, 28-21. Geneva's another team that we can talk about.
They're coming on strong. I mean, they showed that last year. I mean, their record wasn't all that great, but they played a lot of tough games.
Lakeside's a team that they want to show. I tell you, I talked with Luciano Cunningham, who's one of their rescuers, and we talked a little football, and he said something about state playoffs this year, and I just kind of like, okay, come on, Lush, whatever, And but boy, I got to talking to some of their other kids, and they said, you look at their schedule last year, they felt like they should have beat Boardman. They felt like they could have easily beaten Madison. They lost a game to Ravenna South, 9-7 or something. They've lost some guys up front. They still got Parker Meany, who's kind of the heart and soul of that line. They got Luciano Cunningham. They got a real good nose guard too. I apologize, his name forgets me. Spencer Loftus. I saw Spencer Loftus back in March. He was one match from going to Columbus for the state wrestling match. He was talking about football. He was more interested in talking about football, and he looked good. He looked really good Friday night. Last year, he had a lot of trouble getting that ball out of his hands, wasn't comfortable in the offense, didn't know where he was going. Last night, he looked really good. He was taking his drops. He wasn't in a hurry to panic and scramble, and he was finding his guys down the field. Of course, he hit Antonio Harris. Antonio Harris, another very nice player, hit him for an 85-yard pass play to begin that football game. Harris also had an interception in the second half and ran that back for a touchdown. He's got Kevon Colbert. He's got Ethan Colbert. He's got his running back in Gavin Bish. is his fullback. So they got a big game this week with Madison. I'm looking forward to talking to not only Frank Hall but also to Coach Willis out in Madison. I'll be doing the preview on that one this week. And like I said, Lakeside's a team that's looking to turn the corner this year. They don't want to be a 1-9, 2-8 football team anymore. So.
The Warriors, now they're a very young, inexperienced team.
Yeah, very young team. There are two offensive guards, Ryan Mackey and Liam Levito. Coach Ken Priest is very high on them, says they're some of the best guards in the county. It's going into week 2. As of Friday night, he still hadn't settled on a quarterback. We saw Austin Henry, we saw Alec Caton, who's the brother of Ian Caton, played last year, and Sean German, I believe, was the other one. He got a couple of snaps as well. Austin Henry got the most playing time, and he had a couple of nice drives, including the one that they scored on. He's a senior, but he's a first-year starter. I think he's transferred. His family was down in Texas, and they moved back. They moved back up this way. But yeah, they're young. Now they do have some experience up front, and Coach Priest, they do have some young players on the outside and running backs that they're excited about. But you're right, they're young, and they don't have a lot of depth either, and that was a problem last night. Nick Monda, who was running the ball effectively for them in the first quarter, he went out with a sprained ankle. He's okay. I talked to him on the parking lot, said he'd be back this week for Jefferson, but yeah, they had some guys cramping up, and that made it tougher than it already was going to be for them.
Let me ask you about another team that I know that you did a preview on, St. John. Of course, they got a new football coach.
Yes, Scott
What kind of a feel did you get when you were previewing them?
Hungry. I tell you, I asked Scott Nicely about that, and he said, he doesn't think about inheriting a football team that's won game for their last 3 years. He said, I inherited a hungry football team, and he seems like a very aggressive coach. And they went out, they played a very good Vienna. I didn't see the game, but they played a traditionally good team in Vienna Matthews. And I think they were winning that game at some point in the third quarter. I think they wound up losing 28-21 or something like that. But St. John has St. John has some real athleticism. I guess their quarterback John Timoner, he made some plays, had a pretty nice stat line Friday night. I know Christian Blake very well because of wrestling. Jacob Lagoa is a state champion, so you know what a great athlete he is. They got Derek Elrod up front. I can't remember his first name. Ryan Neubauer, I believe his name is. He had a brother, and now he's on the team. So they've got some athletes on that team. Of course, Division 7, it's not just a challenge with the numbers, and their numbers aren't bad. I think they're in the 30s this year, so that's not bad at all for a D7 program.
Yeah, exactly.
But boy, it's not just the numbers though. When you're Division 7, is trying to find a schedule that you can be competitive.
Yeah, really.
That you can be competitive with too. But David Cumberledge, another guy who I think Cumberledge actually quarterbacked for him on Friday night. But yeah, another team that Nicely told me that he was just been overwhelmed with how hard the kids and how eager the kids were to get in this summer and get working. And he said, you just watching them practice and watching them work, you'd never guess that they're one win in their last 3 years. They want to get at it this year. They're another program that wants to turn the corner.
Really great to see that school, not just in football, but the Heralds was talking about on the rebound in all their sports. I mean, they had great wrestling. You mentioned some of the names there.
Oh, yeah, they got a couple more. They got a couple more that almost got down last year.
I think it was their girls' basketball team last year, the only team in the county to go to a playoff game.
Right, Madison.
So they're on the rebound. That's great.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears a little bit, Mike, and talk about the Cleveland Indians.
Let's talk about the Indians.
Coming down to about, I think they got like somewhere around 33 games left.
Okay.
They just came off a weekend where they just annihilated the Royals 20-0 in the 3-game series.
The first time I saw the year, the last time the Indians had either shut out a team for a weekend or had that many
56?
Was it 1950?
56.
56. So you're talking about half a century against a team that has Eric Hosmer.
I know, great hitters.
And Mike Moustakis and Lorenzo Cain, and
I have to think that was the best weekend I think the Indians have played, not just because of the shutouts, all around baseball. The complete game was there, and a number of players aren't even in the lineup due to injury.
Right. Oh my goodness. Right.
What a matchup tonight.
Yeah.
Kluber and Severino.
Is it Kluber? Okay, Kluber and Severino. Yes. I got Severino. Kluber is the best opposing batting average in the American League, 195. Scherzer, he's second best in baseball. Scherzer at Washington's 171. That's just unbelievable. Kershaw's right behind Kluber at 197. Chris Sale's at 200. Luis Severino 222. So yeah, that's going to be a great match. That's going to be a great series. I'm really looking forward to seeing that series.
With that sweep of the Royals, that kind of set them back a little bit. Now 9 back. But the Twins keep hanging around. It's about a 6.5 game
they're
lead.
They're staying just close enough
To make you a little nervous.
just to keep us a little bit nervous.
It's close enough where you're looking at each series now. I'm looking at, we've got 3 games in New York, which will be tough. Now the Twins are going home to play the White Sox.
Right.
So anything can happen in a
we've got a bunch though, and I don't have the schedule in front of me, but about a month ago, you looked at August and you got a little nervous because you saw the Red Sox, you saw the Yankees, you saw Minnesota and Kansas City. And for us to sit here, on August 28th and have a 6.5 game advantage, I feel pretty good. 13-5 since they made the trade for Jay Bruce.
What a great pickup.
I just jotted down some notes here today. Talk about some pitching. You know about Corey Kluber.
Yeah.
You know about Carlos Carrasco. Trevor Bauer. We wouldn't be Cleveland fans if we didn't have one player, one coach, one front office guy that we wanted to hang from the top of, publicly execute, and Trevor Bauer's has been one of those guys for the last couple of years.
Yeah, and he's just tied with the team lead in wins with 13.
40 over his last, this is his last, 5-6 starts. 40. Remember the first start after the All-Star break against Oakland? He couldn't get out of the first inning.
Right.
Since then, 40 2/3 innings, he's allowed 10 earned runs in 40 innings. That comes out to about 2.25 ERA, 46 strikeouts to 10 walks. Danny Salazar, who I just read today, has resumed throwing. Hopefully we get him back. But before that last start, where he got hammered in Kansas City, 32 innings of work, just 5 earned runs. Ryan Merritt comes up and throws a shutout. Mike Clevenger had 7 innings of shutout ball the other day. So you look at this team, and boy, it took us a long time to get here, didn't it?
It sure did.
On July 19th, the Indians were 48-45, half a game ahead of Minnesota, 2 games up on Kansas City, only 5 games ahead of the Tigers. Yeah. This from a team that we thought was coming off a World Series season. We're waiting, when in the world is this team going to get it together?
Until the last couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, it's really been a start and stop button type offense.
Right.
When they got it going, nobody can beat them. But boy, when they go in that slump.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what's been. I mentioned Jay Bruce. Jay Bruce really fulfills the middle of the line. There's now Santana and Encarnacion has got some protection. But look at the front of the lineup. Frankie, let me see if I got it written down here.
He's on now.
Yeah, Frankie Lindor was hitting 214 for the month of June. He hit 318 in July. He's hitting 269 for the month of August. We know about Jason Kipnis. He hasn't been right all year. Hopefully they get him right. But now you got Austin Jackson. He's hit 315 since he's come off the DL, and Tito's got him in that number 2 spot. Carlos Santana was hitting 231 early in the summer. He hit 325 in July, 273 in August. Edwin Encarnacion was hitting 190-something the first week of May.
Now he's got 30 home runs. You would have asked me 2 months ago, I would have told you he's not going to get 30.
No.
Look at how he's come on. Now, you mentioned somebody there, Jason Kipnis. Of course, he's had injury issues.
Yeah.
But, Mike, why do I feel this way? I feel that if they get into the playoffs, and I do think they will get into the playoffs.
Oh, sure.
He's going to come through big time. I just feel that way.
You feel that way?
I do. The last couple times he's come off the disabled list, he has shown some signs of starting to hit.
That's a great point. Even the last time, didn't he have a 2-home-run game when he just came off
Yes, against the Twins. I just feel, I don't know why.
Yeah, and you haven't even mentioned Michael Brantley yet.
There's another one. We're so used to playing without him, I don't even
We haven't even mentioned Andrew Miller yet, who was our
There's another one.
who was our postseason MVP.
And Chisenhall was leading the team in RBIs before he went on
was
the
having a
deal.
monster. I don't know where Tito's going to find room for all
He'll
these
find
guys.
room. It's a pleasant problem to have.
It is, and I got to tell you this story real quick. 'Cause I know we're running short on time, but I had a chance to go to Wrigley Field last month. And
Oh,
a
that
friend
had
of
to be
mine,
exciting.
yeah, oh yeah, and I
Did you wear your Indians jersey?
I wore my gear,
Yes.
and I knew I was putting a target on myself. And I heard it. Most of the people were very nice and very respectful. Some of them said that they came to Cleveland. I said, yeah, well, half of Chicago came to Cleveland.
Oh, yeah.
Last year. I'm glad that that's not going to happen again this year. The Indians have changed how many postseason tickets season ticket holders are allowed to get now.
Oh, did they?
I just found that out that last year. That's how all these Cubs fans were getting in last year. Was season ticket holders were getting 8 tickets, and of course, people coming from northern Michigan and Chicago, where, let's face it, there's a lot more money there than there is here in
Exactly.
Northeast
And that's all
Ohio.
Cub
We're
fans.
offering people, offering $2,000
So
for a
they
ticket.
changed their policy.
They changed that policy this year. So if we, we're not gonna. I mean, who knows if the Cubs are gonna get back or not? I don't think anybody's gonna beat the Dodgers out in the West, and we gotta get past Houston in the American League. But I heard it from a few of the Cubs fans, and some of them were very nice and said they came here last year, and they said a lot of good things about us. But I said, you know who your MVP of that series was, don't you? It was Ian Kinsler, because he hit that line drive that broke Carrasco's hand.
Oh,
and if we
I was
would've
wondering
had-
where you were going with
And
that.
if we would have had one more star,
You know what I think the Cubs MVP was?
Who was that?
That 10-minute rain delay.
Talk about that rain delay. And,
That just gave them a chance to regroup.
Yeah, I was at Crow's Nest that night doing a story for the Star Beacon, and just the experience of watching that game. And boy, what a ride it was! What a ride it was! And I remember I was on your show, and I told the fans, just let's enjoy this, let's have fun with it, and we did. But darn, I wanted to win.
I actually think this team here, right now at least, is better than last year's team.
That pitching that I mentioned, that's where I was getting to with the Ian Kinsler thing, is let's just get to October healthy and do whatever I know we still got a little bit of work to do. It's not over yet.
Yeah.
I think Minnesota might make one more run of this, maybe get to within 3 or 4 with our pitching. I just can't see. They would have to get really hot, and we would have to really hit the skids. And with our pitching, you really think that's going to happen?
You would hope not. Especially
when after the Yankees, we got a bunch of games with Chicago and Detroit, and maybe we only played Minnesota 3 more times, so that's in our favor.
And that's at home.
That's in our favor right now. But with that pitching we got, with you sending Kluber, Carrasco, and either the way even Bauer, the way Salazar's going. We're going to be I really like our chances. I know Houston's very good, Boston's very good. In baseball, anything can happen, but with the way we can just keep our starting pitching healthy, and with our bullpen, I really like our chances.
Doesn't get any better than tonight's matchup. I mean, it's going to be on national TV again.
Yep.
Well, Mike, thanks
Absolutely.
for
Thanks
coming
for having
on
me
the
back.
show and giving us a little update on some high school football.
Yes,
And
sir.
let's go Tribe.
All righty, very good.
All right,
Chuck,
Mike
thanks for having me.
Shaffer, sports writer of the Star Beacon, my guest today on Around the Town with Chuck.